In this video, we will construct frequency tables, relative frequency tables, and cumulative frequency tables. Let's begin with the first example. Construct a frequency table for the following data set for the number of cups of coffee, people drink in a week, and then we have this list of numbers. So we are creating the frequency table from scratch, and we know that there needs to be two columns, a column for what value it is, which in this case would be the number of cups of coffee, and then a second column for the frequency, how many times that value occurs. Oftentimes we see our tables just like this one down here, where the columns are side by side. Since I feel like we may not have enough room for that, I'm going to do mine this other way, where we have the value, and then we have the frequency. So remember, this is just our number of coffee cups, and then how many times that value occurs. So looking at our list, it looks like our smallest value is 1, and it goes up to 10. So we want to list all of those here in our value column. And then we want a place where we can write how many times that value occurs in the list, or what the frequency is. So this is just a matter of kind of taking your time, making sure you don't miss anything. So we want to see how many times we see the number 1 listed, and I always cross them out as I go. Looks like it's 3 times. And then we want to see, what about 2? Looks like there's 2 of those, and so on. So at this point, if you would like to pause the video and finish filling out this table and play it to check your answers. So here is the frequency table that I came up with. Looks like 5 cups of coffee in a week is the most common, or has the most frequency. Then there are a few that have 0 there. So the value 3, the value 4, 8, and 9 all have 0. Okay, so that's constructing one from scratch with a set of data. Let's try another example. Here we were already given the frequency table, and from that we want to first make the relative frequency table and then the cumulative frequency table. So the frequency table tells us how many of each value. So how many of each value. And then to get the relative frequency table, we just want to take that frequency and divide by the total number. So kind of think about it as its probability that it occurs. So adding up the frequency, or adding up how many values total we have, we get that there's 32. So for relative frequency, we want to divide each frequency by 32. Okay, so we will have 10 divided by 32 here, 3 over 32 here, and so on all down the table. So this gives us basically like an easier way to compare, or lets us see kind of how likely each value is in comparison to the others. Okay, and then we will just see what numbers we get here, and I'm not going to round because it will keep them exact that way. So we get 0.3125, 0.09375, 0.125, 0.28125, and 0.1875. So we have the relative frequency for each value. The next step we can take is to make a cumulative frequency table, which cumulative means it gives you the probability of the value or anything less than. So for example, this value, this cumulative frequency for the value of 5, gives you the probability that 5, 4, or 3 occurs. So in order to get that, we just have to take everything prior to it and add it up. So for this table, we will add all previous probabilities. So our first probability will not change. It will still be 0.3125. But then for the next probability, or cumulative frequency, we're going to add 0.3125 to 0.09375. So adding those two together gives us a cumulative probability of getting the value of 4. So doing that, we get 0.40625. So you're just going to see that the numbers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So next, we're going to add the previous value, which is 0.40625, to the probability of 5, which is 0.125, and we get 0.53125. So they're just kind of adding on each other here. Okay, now we want to take this and we want to add on the relative frequency for the probability of 6. Okay, so we get 0.8125. And then finally, we add this last probability. And what do you think is going to happen? What should be our last probability in this cumulative frequency table? It's going to be 1, because this last row here says, what is the probability that you get 7 or anything less than 7? Well, it's going to be 1 because it's anything in the table. So in a cumulative frequency table, this last one will always be 1. And that's a good way to check yourself. So I was actually doing this problem before recording the video, and I was adding these up, and this last value was like 0.9 or something. It was less than 1. So that made me realize that I did some incorrect work before. So it's a nice way to check yourself too.